Regardless of your age or background, you should always keep a certain something in mind. It's actually one of the fundamental reasons I started this channel, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. Everyone should want it, especially if you don't want to work your entire life. What am I talking about? Well, it's the topic of today's video, retirement. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, helping you make sense of making dollars. For this week, we're going to take a break from the company analysis videos to delve deeper into this incredibly important topic. Whether you're a teenager just joining the workforce or a seasoned adult who's seriously thinking about their future after working, retirement should be a goal for everyone. If you're also investing, I believe that your portfolio should be optimized with this in mind too. First though, let's talk briefly about investing and what it is. While many of us already know what investing is, I think it's still important to be reminded every so often. Investing is the act of setting aside money, usually every month, in the hopes of getting a return on that money. Most people believe that investing is just buying stocks or pieces of a company. As whatever you invest in grows, so does your capital. You do this with the mindset that you can one day live off of the invested funds. However, investing could mean anything. Could be stocks, real estate, or could even be the best investment yourself. The point is, investing is allocating capital in hopes of getting a return. With that general understanding of investing in mind, let's look at the paths you can take when it comes to investing in stocks for retirement. The first thing any working person at any age should get is a 401k or a Roth IRA. These are both tax-sheltered accounts that are similar in theory with some key differences. First, a 401k is an account where a part of your paycheck goes every time you get paid. Often, 401ks are sponsored by employers as a benefit and are often matched by your employer up to a certain amount. 401k accounts allow you to invest essentially tax-free until you can begin withdrawing that money from the account. You can usually start withdrawing money around 59.5 years old, penalty-free in the US. Withdraw before then, and you'll get hit with a usually 10% fee. In the meantime though, you can gain dividends and won't face any capital gains when you sell until that point. If you're in the job market, look for positions that include 401k as a benefit. It's free money. If you're currently employed, take a look at your benefits if you have any and see if you offered a 401k. Enroll in it if you haven't already, because again, it's free money. On the other hand, a Roth IRA works in a similar fashion, except you invest after you pay taxes on the amount you put into the account. Whatever money is left over, you can contribute to a Roth IRA. This allows you to grow your money tax-free, much like a 401k. However, when you withdraw your money at or after the required age, again, 59.5, you do not have to pay taxes on those withdrawals you've already paid. Then the question comes up of whether a 401k or a Roth IRA is better for you. That's honestly pretty simple. Usually a Roth IRA is recommended for younger people because they are generally in lower tax brackets, essentially meaning that they pay a little in taxes now to maximize their contributions. Most employers don't always offer IRAs, although this is somewhat changing. Still, most employers choose to offer 401ks to their employees. 401ks are usually recommended for older people who are working in a higher tax bracket and expect to be in a lower one later in life. Let's use an example here. If you're making $100,000 a year, you're in a pretty high tax bracket. It would make sense to enroll in a 401k over a Roth IRA for the fact that your 401k contribution is untaxed until you start withdrawing that money. In the Roth IRA, you'd be taxed much more on your contribution, whatever is appropriate for the higher tax bracket. Then, if for some reason your living situation changes after retirement and you landed a much lower tax bracket, the taxes on your 401k withdrawals will be proportionate to that lower tax bracket, despite having contributed while you were making $100,000 a year. Now, there is a third account that you can invest in besides a 401k or a Roth IRA, but it has none of the tax advantages of the other two, a brokerage account. If you're unsure what a brokerage account is, just think Robinhood, M1 Finance, or TD Ameritrade, or any others, because any account you open with these institutions is likely to be a brokerage account. If you invest with a brokerage account, picking and choosing what stocks you invest in on your own money, no employer sponsorship, you'll be taxed at the end of the year on the sales of any stocks or on any dividends. There are lots of odd ideas on how to use these types of accounts to the best advantage or to maximize returns. Check out the link in the description for an excellent article from the Mad Fientist that goes more in depth about these accounts and ideas. And it's perfectly fine to have all three of those accounts, a 401k, a Roth IRA, and a brokerage account. I do. The 401k and Roth IRA are for more long-term investing. S&P 500 index funds that I don't really have to think about. Whereas the brokerage account is where I'm kind of learning how to do value investing, and it's a fun place to really kind of mess around with. You can talk to 1,000 different people and get 1,000 different answers as to what the best investment is right now. Reading and hearing and finding all these ideas can make investing seem extremely difficult. It can seem incredibly daunting that only those who devote their lives to it can be successful. I completely denounce all that mess. Realistically, The answer to all of your problems is very simple. If you don't want to think about investing at all and retire rich, just buy SPY. That's it. I know it may sound really simple, and that's because it is. SPY, or SPY, is the S&P 500 ETF. It's a list of the 500 most valuable companies by market cap in the US, and an ETF of those companies. If you're unsure of what an ETF is, just know that it's basically a collection of stocks. Buy one share of SPY, and you get a tiny piece of the top 500 most valuable companies in the US. You can consider this to be one of the safest investments you can make in the world of stocks, and it's a benchmark used to compare against other portfolios and whole management companies. SPY is the cornerstone of investing at this point. What's that I hear you saying? Investing can't be that easy? Well, it absolutely can. Look at Warren Buffett. Do a quick search of the guy and you'll know him like everybody else does. He's regarded as one of the greatest investors alive. In preparation for his inevitable passing, Buffett set up a trust for his wife that is made up of entirely two, yes, only two, holdings. 90% of the trust is the S&P 500 ETF VOO, a variant of the SPY, and 10% is in cash. He uses a portfolio model where 90% of his portfolio goes into one ETF and 10% stays in cash and or bonds. That's it. If the greatest investor alive has his entire family trust in one ETF, then I would say there's some truth to putting all your eggs in this one ETF basket. And I would say that's one convincing letter of recommendation. Here are some numbers for you on the S&P 500 for you to consider. On average, the S&P 500, or SPY, grows around 7 to 8% per year after inflation. Of course, this isn't really consistent. Some years it lands around 15%, 2%, or even negative 6%. Some years it's even plus 30%. Yet regardless, it grows on an average 7 to 8% over long periods of time. Again, let's use this example. Every month you contribute $150 to a 401k and your employer matches 100% of that $150. In total, you invest $300 every month. Then you take this $300 and invest it in SPY, and every month for 40 years you continue to do this. At an average growth rate of 8%, you will have over $900,000 by the end of those 40 years. Investing, remember, is all about math and numbers. When you retire with that $900,000, you can live comfortably with $35,000 of income for the remainder of your life. And I would say that's not doing too bad. With that being said, I know that most people won't go the boring route and pump all their money into SPY or VOO like Warren Buffett. So this leads me to my second portfolio model you can use called a satellite portfolio. I believe the term was coined by Joseph Hogue, linked to his channel in the description. A satellite portfolio prioritizes ETFs, but still allows room for individual stocks. Actually, this is the model that I use. In this model, most of your invested money goes into large ETFs, and the rest into high conviction stocks of companies you've thoroughly researched. The idea, though, in a satellite portfolio is that 65 to 70% of your portfolio is in large ETFs, and the other 35 to 30% goes into these high conviction stocks. Just look at my own portfolio. Most of it is tied to ETFs, but there are still a lot of individual stocks. Probably not 35 to 30%, but more. Why? It's because I'm bad at following my own rules. Don't be like me, because really I believe that satellite portfolios are the second best models you can use. I also think that going all into ETFs like SPY is still a good option, but at least this gives you something else to think about. If you don't believe in just stockpiling all your hard-earned dollars in this one ETF and you want to diversify, let me be clear. In order to invest in individual stocks or other ETFs, you have to be willing to do the hard work and research. You have to really do your research into any company you plan to invest in. That means evaluating the company's earnings, news, and so on. Most people just don't have the time, energy, or will to do the in-depth research for individual companies. I'm not saying that going with the satellite model and including these high-conviction individual stocks is a bad thing, or makes you a bad investor. Again, look at my portfolio. It's clearly a satellite portfolio with both ETFs and individual stocks. You can build a solid portfolio with both the Buffett model and the satellite portfolio. If you're still adamant about these individual stocks, I have plenty of videos looking at various companies. Just look through my channel and you can see that. Also, if you're not sure how to start or what criteria you need to determine when you start, check out this video. In it, I lay out how I value companies for potential investments. And you can go one step further by joining my Discord, link below, to ask questions or just get to talk to the community about what you found out or think. It's a great idea to talk with others, and my Discord is certainly the place to be. Regardless of all that, you need to start right now, whether researching or investing, like right now. That's really the point of this video, especially for younger people. Time is your best friend, and it can be your worst enemy when it comes to building any sort of tangible investment. The best way that I can portray this absolute importance of starting early is with a little help from The Money Guy Show. The Money Guy Show is another financial YouTube series hosted by two guys who, at least in my perspective, have a solid grasp of finance. Their channel is much like Dave Ramsey, except they're actually intelligent. Go and check out their channel, which has some solid content, and their website, which has tons of free resources for understanding personal finance just a little bit better. Now we're going to take a little look at this PDF from The Money Guy Show. This PDF shows how much your money is worth at various stages in life. Starting at the age of 20, every dollar you save is worth $88 by the time you're 65. Of course, this assumes you plan to retire at 65 since that's the average retirement age. As you can see, the worth of every dollar saved starts to shrink dramatically as you move through life. By 25, your future vested earnings have already halved, with every dollar only being worth $44 in those next 40 years. Again, this is why it's so important to invest as much as possible while you're young. Of course, not all of us have the luxury of starting at such a young age. That's why we're going to look at this other PDF from The Money Guy Show. This shows us very simply how much we need to save every month at whatever age you like to become a millionaire by 65. Again, time and wealth favor the young, showing that as you grow older, it requires you to save more money in order to achieve the same result. The unfortunate reality is that there has been a significant rise in Americans working past 65. Some of the reasons cited are rising healthcare costs and lack of retirement savings. The over 65 crowd is actually the fastest growing section of the workforce, growing 35% between 2011 and 2016. That translates to right around 20% of the people over the age of 65 are either working or looking for work. While this may seem like a small percentage, that translates to over 10 million Americans. Another thing to consider is Social Security and how it's vanishing, with some estimates putting the complete defunding of Social Security in as early as 2035. Without this Social Security, I believe that more people will need to heavily rely on retirement savings in the future. Think about it like this. Do you want to retire someday instead of working all your life? The stats show us that there are people at a retirement age who are still working. It's possible they want a job to pass the free time, or they can't afford retirement. The stats also show us that the earlier you start, the more you'll have for retirement. Now is the time to start. No matter your age, you can choose any portfolio model, Warren Buffett's all-in-one basket or the satellite portfolio. Again, now is the time to start because retirement is important and should be important. Don't worry about being bad, because being bad is the first step to becoming kinda sorta good at something. As you invest and learn more, you'll get better and more confident. You'll realize that a lot of information is just noise, and it's important to remember that we're all on our own investing journey. Hopefully, retirement is a goal of that journey too. I hope everyone finds some value in this video and has a better grasp of finances, investing, and retirement in general. With all that being said, I hope to see all of you in the next episode of Dollars and Cents.